Hey Star Trek fans, welcome to another edition of the Disco Deep Dive, my look into the Easter eggs and canon connections from a recent episode of Star Trek Discovery. Once again playing a little bit of catch up, and my apologies for that. This episode is for Terra Firma Part 2, Season 3, Episode 10 of Star Trek Discovery. Warning here for spoilers: if you've not seen the episode, you may not want to watch this video. To begin with, in the Mirror Universe, we get a reference to Genghis Khan, the Mongolian warlord who controlled a great portion of the world at one point in history. It seems that he did the same in the Terran universe and is renowned as a great leader in their history. There is some question as to the origin point of the Mirror Universe, or whether it always existed as a separate entity from the Prime Universe. I will direct your attention to the Enterprise episode In a Mirror Darkly Part 2, where we get the best hint as to how far back the division between the two universes goes. In that episode, Dr. Phlox says that he was reviewing some of the literature of the Mirror Universe, the Terrans specifically, and notes that the stories were generally similar, but that the characters were soft and weak, excepting Shakespeare, in which both universes' versions were as dark as the other. Presumably his review of the literature went back further in time than Shakespeare, so suffice it to say that the differences between the two universes stretches back to antiquity. At one point, the Mirror Burnham talks about a coalition of various species, naming the Romulans, the Andorians, the Tellarites, and the Klingons. She also name-drops the Denobilens, the Rigelians, and the Caridonites. We saw Caridonites earlier this season, and Denobilens were of course a major species portrayed in Star Trek Enterprise, with Dr. Phlox being a main character of that species. Rigelians were also featured in Enterprise in a much more limited capacity. As far as I can remember, this is the first mention of Denobilens in Star Trek Discovery. In Georgiou's quarters aboard the ISS Discovery, we see a familiar device built into the wall that she's using to monitor Burnham. This appears to be the Tantalus Field, the weapon employed by Captain James T. Kirk in the Mirror Universe in the original series episode Mirror Mirror. With this device, Kirk was able to press a button and eliminate his enemies. Tilly seems to make reference to this when she says that Georgiou could eliminate Burnham at the push of a button. We get to the opening credits of the episode, and something odd seems to be at play here. The credits are the photo negative of the usual credits, as well as being flipped, indicating, of course, that we are in the Mirror Universe for the first part of this episode. I'm reminded, of course, of the change to the opening credits for the Enterprise two-parter In a Mirror Darkly. This time, however, the changes to the credits feel like a little bit more of an afterthought than they were in those episodes. Still, it's nice to get a little bit of a change and an indication that this episode is outside the norm for Star Trek Discovery. Was anyone else disappointed that with all of the buildup that we got in this episode and the one preceding it, we never actually got to see Jason Isaacs return as Lorca? I know that might have been a little bit too much to ask, but he is referenced so much in this episode and the one before it that I really did hope to see the return of everyone's favorite Mirror Universe imposter. The Kelpians of the Mirror Universe have a much harder time of it than those in the Prime Universe, which is really saying a lot because the Kelpians of the Prime Universe, before the revolution on Kaminar last season in Star Trek Discovery, also were not afforded the best quality of life in the galaxy. In the Mirror Universe, they are regularly culled and harvested for food, their ganglia being a particular delicacy. However, in this episode, Georgiou makes a fundamental change and basically grants Kelpians a reprieve from this life as a food source. They are, of course, still subservient to the Empire, but are no longer served as food. Additionally, reference is made to Vaharai, the onset of madness that marks the end of a Kelpian's life, or at least it did, until it was discovered that this is merely a change for the Kelpians, in which they lose their ganglia, much of their fear response, and take on a new, more aggressive personality type. Georgiou reveals this fact to the Mirror Saru, who then takes that information to his people and allows it to spread. We in fact see a post-Vaharai Mirror Saru towards the end of Georgiou's time in the Mirror Universe in this episode, and it really is a sight to behold. One of Lorca's accomplices is eventually tracked down to the planet Raiza. Raiza is a famous vacation world first seen in Star Trek The Next Generation. It has been established to be known to Starfleet officers since the first season of Enterprise. This is our first look at Raiza in the Mirror Universe, and it does appear to be a little different from the Raiza that we know from the Prime Universe. For one thing, this Raiza appears to have a system of rings, whereas views of Raiza seen in other series do not show rings encircling the planet. The newspaper from last episode makes another appearance in this episode, this time with a changed lead story, Emperor Georgiou's fate uncertain. However, the image of the newspaper is much more clear in this episode, and I want to call out this user who did an excellent job of transcribing a lot of the articles that we see on the paper here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will have this image here in this video. You can pause and peruse the content of the articles as you see fit. The articles include the lead story, To Live or to Die, the Empire must carry on without beloved Emperor. She has seconds to decide. We also have the story on the starship USS Genghis reported to be missing. This is, of course, the starship that crash-landed on the Dyson Sphere, carrying Captain Montgomery Scott. This was seen in the TNG episode Relics. We have Supernova threatens to con Empire, billions perish. This is the Empire shown in the TNG episode The Last Outpost. We even have at the top Universal Edition, today's weather, serene, calm, and pleasant, no change expected, and the price of 15 quatlus. Quatlus being the currency introduced in the TOS episode The Gangsters of Triskelion. There's a couple of small stories on the side here. Andorian famine contained, UFP relief efforts reach cities, fatalities minimized, and down here at the bottom we have hostile attack. Federation medical and engineering personnel are distributing emergency portable replicators. I love the amount of detail put into this particular prop and would love to be able to see the entire page. If anybody knows if that's been released as behind the scenes information, please let me know. I would love to see this. And with this episode, we of course get final confirmation of the identity of the mysterious Carl. He is indeed the Guardian of Forever, first seen in the TOS episode The City on the Edge of Forever, a time portal allowing travel to other times and dimensions. We also see the Guardian of Forever in the animated series episode Yesteryear. The Guardian also makes several appearances in various other Star Trek novels. I'm going to point out the novel Federation by Judith and Garfield Reeves-Stevens, Imzadi by Peter David, and of course the Crucible trilogy by David R. George III. These are very notable appearances of the Guardian of Forever in the Star Trek literary universe. All of these are excellent novels. Please do check them out. Georgiou once again makes reference to her childhood friend San. This is a character that was first featured in the Discovery novel Die Standing by John Jackson Miller. It looks as though we won't get a follow-up on this particular storyline in Star Trek Discovery, but it sounds like it is a thread that they are going to be picking up in the Star Trek Section 31 television show whenever we will see that on our television screens. And finally, we get the return of Jet Reno in this episode, and she mentions that she's been converting the power conduits to polaric energy. Polaric ion energy was first mentioned in the Star Trek Voyager episode Time and Again, at which time it was noted that it was too dangerous and there was a ban on polaric ion energy research among most Alpha Quadrant and Beta Quadrant species. However, it looks as though by the 32nd century, the safety concerns surrounding this power source have been worked out. Well, there you have it, folks. Those were all of the Easter eggs and canon connections I found for Terra Firma Part 2. Were there any that I missed? Please let me know in the comments below. Again, I apologize for the lateness of this video. I should have the next one up fairly soon. And then after that, there's only 2 more episodes of Star Trek Discovery. So it's been a really fun season. Looking forward to these last few episodes and all of the canon connections that we can find in them as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and thanks, of course, especially to you, the Patreon supporters, for all of your help in bringing these videos to you. I really do appreciate it. Could not do it without you. Thank you so very much. To everyone else, thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, as always, live long and prosper.